What's up, everybody? Today we've got a brand new ARPG to talk about, and this one is a little bit weird. It's called Hellclock, and it's been developed by Roguesnail, and the best way I can describe this is, what if Diablo was made by an indie studio that was obsessed with time travel? This is a ARPG all about going into hell and fighting against time. That's the best way I can summarize this. And if you've never played a roguelike game before, this isn't a game where you're grinding gear and you're constantly tweaking your gear to get further and further through whatever you're trying to do. This is a game about going into a run, getting as far as you can, and the run in this case is progressing through hell. And as you go further and further and further, you will hit points and collect resources, and then when it ends, when you fail, you go back to your central, your hub, this area between runs, and here you can then progress your character. So that's the game. Now I'm going to get into some details of what the game is, how the progression works, and overall the pros and cons of, is this game worth playing? Okay, so first let's talk about the combat and the gameplay loop, because this is an action RPG, and if that's not good, if that isn't satisfying, nothing else really matters if it has an amazing story and really good progression. If the gameplay isn't fun, it's not a great ARPG. So that's the first place I want to start. And I'm going to be honest with you here, the combat is really good. I will say it's build dependent. The combat is build dependent. There are certain abilities that give you speed. So there is like a dash, there is a spin that you can like ramp up your movement speed with, and those that you move around really fast. Now those abilities feel amazing. Lots of other abilities that are a lot more punchier and a lot more weighty do stand you in place and you have to stand still while you cast those. Those didn't feel as good, but overall the combat feels good. On top of that, the enemy attacks are very well telegraphed. If something is going to come as an AoE, it's big circle on the ground. If there are things coming out, they're very well identifiable. There's not very many like random one shots where you just feel bad. You think you're doing really well, and then bang, you get hit by a random crit and your run ends. I didn't experience that much, which is a great thing. Even on bosses, they are telegraphed well enough that if he's going to teleport or charge, you can get out of the way in time. Again, build dependent if you have the mobility, but yeah, it feels very fair, and the gameplay loop as a whole feels really clean and smooth for an indie game. I'd say art style is up to your own preference, but the gameplay itself feels very satisfying on both keyboard and mouse and controller. So yeah, combat feels very clean. The gameplay loop itself is you start in this central hub, you go through a portal into hell, and you progress as far as you can until you ultimately get defeated. Now, there are 3 acts, so you've got about 20 something floors in the first act, for example, and you're progressing through as far as you can. Every so often you hit a wave-based room where you have to fight waves of monsters, and then every so many rooms there is a boss, and then the final floor there is a end of act boss, and then you move on to act 2, act 3, and so on. Once you've done the 3 acts, you open up the end game. Now, this in itself is pretty good. The main blocker that you're gonna face is stat progression. You're gonna hit points where you don't have the stats to take a hit. You don't have enough health to take a hit. You don't have enough damage to defeat the monsters. And then your run ends. You go back to the start, and you go back to the central hub, and you start progressing your character. And I'll talk all about those different levels of progression. And then you jump back in. Now, this in itself is a pretty good gameplay loop. It's what you would expect from a roguelite. The one downside I would give it is there isn't much randomness to it. There isn't much random RNG things that can happen. From my experience, there were some like little treasure goblin type monsters. There were a couple of chests in different rooms, but generally every room is a straight line north to exit, and the portal is always in like the northeast, the north of the map. So every floor is just run north, defeat everything on the way, click the portal, and go again. There aren't many like really cool events like you would expect in like Path of Exile, for example. There aren't many like RNG cool things that you get, like the powers, for example, in Hades. But what you do have is every time you gain enough XP, you level, you pick up these trinkets as you progress every run, and these make you stronger. But generally, it does get a little bit samey, I would say. So you do feel like you have to keep changing your build to keep it fun. So that's probably the one flaw I would give on the gameplay loop, and you're gonna feel it, I would say, if you play this for a long period of time. Okay, now let's jump into the game and talk about the actual progression, because that's usually one of the most fun parts about a roguelike is how you progress your character between each run, because you want to get past these stat checks, you want to improve your build. Here's how you do it. So as you're playing through the story, you will unlock this thing called the Great Bell, and every time you do a run, you will gain memory experience, and as you level up, you will get points to put into this big tree, the Great Bell tree. And through here, you unlock basic, you unlock a few things, but basically you get the stats, the actual stats in here, like life and, you know, conviction, which is like an energy shield, like a barrier. You get things like the red portal, which helps you teleport through the each run faster. And then you get like increased sizes, so you can add more artifacts as you play through. You get things like increased skill levels, so your skills do more damage and they have better effects, things like that. And as you complete more acts, you unlock more of these different wings, and your character gets stronger and stronger and stronger. This is the main thing you're going to be doing as you play through. You're going to be trying to unlock more and more of this and make your character stronger and stronger. And everywhere you go here makes you stronger, makes the runs more interesting. The second thing you'll be doing is, as I've mentioned, unlocking the artifacts. So over here you have the skill tree and the artifacts. Every time you defeat a boss, you will get an artifact, and every time you defeat an act, you will unlock new skills. So you can see here, we've got these skills so far, and you make your build out of this. So you can have 5 skills on your hotbar at once, and you can see it's you know, based on the different buttons, and you can level them up, and you can drag them on your bar and play whatever build you want. You then come to your reliquary, and you base the reliquary around the skills you have. So for example, if we go through here, and you have these different things. So this one here converts split shot into a single bullet that deals physical damage. So you see they transform your abilities. So for example, I've got this one here, spells gain damage per active summon, and then I have an ability here which summons monsters, and then I have another one which, when you use the ability, it doubles the amount of summons. So, you know, there's a little combo there. You know, you summon more enemies, you gain more damage per summon, things like that. You know, there's a big AoE of like meteors falling, and then this one here, the meteors now follow you. So that's kind of another way the progression works. And you'll collect these soul stones every run. You can then come in here and you can upgrade your artifacts, your relics to be even stronger. So that's the majority of what you're doing. There is also this thing over here where you can get equipment, but this isn't massively that. More life, more crit kind of thing, but this isn't like build defining. It's very static. There's not really much you can do here. That's most of the progression, and there is a whole different system once you get to endgame, but that's most of the progression you'll experience as you're playing. And I would say it's enough. It's enough for an indie RPG at this price point. I'd say it's very fun making the different builds. So far I've made a funnel fire damage based like channeling attack build, and then I've made like a spinning like tornado kind of build, and they've both been really, really fun. And you know, you can add in like elements, summons, things that work around barriers, things like that, and genuinely it does feel really good. I would say combined with this, the progression, every run you gain a few more points in here, combined with changing your build up, it does feel good. Okay, now rather than just rambling on for ages and making this a really long video, I just want to summarize the best things this game does well and the things it struggles with, and then overall if the game is worth your time. So on the good, the build variety and how easy it is to switch builds are top class. The builds feel really fun, and they aren't restrictive to, you know, you have to go down a certain thing. If you want to make a fire build, you can make a fire build that's empowered by barriers. You can make a lightning build that gets stronger with summons. You can really tweak them how you want. I've made 3 very distinct and different builds so far, and they've all felt really different and unique in their own way, which has given a completely different way to play the game. On top of this, to change the build, you just throw a bunch of relics into your relic window and put different skills on your hotbar. It's that simple. No weird respec requirements, or you've got to hunt a certain, you know, piece of gear for ages and ages. It's fairly easy to just throw things on and just have fun, which is really refreshing in the current ARPG space. On top of that, the controller support is fantastic. It has seamless keyboard and mouse to controller support, so you can be sat playing with keyboard and mouse, and then you can just grab a controller, everything switch over to controller settings. No need to jump in and out of the game, which some, you know, AAA games are still struggling with. It does it very, very well. It also has WASD, which is again makes it very, very, very smooth and satisfying to play. Okay, so now the problems are the things that I personally didn't like while playing. Number one has to be the lack of random elements that can affect your runs. I really was expecting more things to happen. You know, you're running through these floors. There's not many events. You know, a portal should open and demons should just rush out of it. You should collect something and it changes your run in a wild way. Generally, every single run is the same. You go through the runs, you collect something, and maybe every time you level up, you collect a buff and it gives you, you know, more damage, or, you know, skills stay longer duration. And then you get these trinkets, which are like stat boosts. But there's not really much that would make one run feel different from the next run. And, you know, that's the beauty of roguelikes, is a run can just be so absurd. Look at something like Binding of Isaac. A run can just be so different, and it lacks that. It lacks that completely. So that's the biggest flaw for me. The only other thing I'd say is I wish there was more character development that you could do. For example, you have your character and, you know, there's no other classes. That's fine. But you only have this one way here to like get new gear. You can just get tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 gear. You can't change it. You can't, you know, enchant it. You can't do anything with it. You can't do anything with your character sheet. All of these slots here for your trinkets, they just drop in a run and they auto equip. So they, you know, +9 crit, and then you get a +10 crit. It'll add a +10 crit here, but you can't change it. And then when the run ends, they're all gone. So your character progression does feel a little bit limited. Overall, should you play Hellclock? I would say if you're looking for a new ARPG, if you're looking for a roguelike ARPG, if you like the genre, you know, you like Diablo, Path of Exile, Last Epoch, Hades, if you like those kind of games, this is a fun one. And we are in a natural lull right now where there's no other big seasons happening, no other big things happening right now. This scratches the itch. The builds are fun. It's diverse enough to keep you playing. The combat is fun. The bosses are fun. Everything feels great on both keyboard and mouse. The music, the story, everything hits. Everything does feel good. And the progression going through the 3 acts, you're going to have a good time. I genuinely think this is a good game, a well-developed game, and it's definitely worth the low price point. I think it's like £16 right now on release. Maybe it's like, I don't know, like $20-something. It's very indie price. You know, this isn't a AAA game. A AAA game price, you know, it's like $60-70. You are getting value for money here. This definitely is a game I would recommend if you like the genre. However, if I had to compare this to other games in the genre, if I had to compare it to Hades, I do think Hades has significantly more going on in terms of a replayability point of view. If I was comparing it to the big ARPGs, it doesn't even scratch the surface of the depth of some of them, right? So it's hard to compare to the others, but as an indie game, it is good. So Hellclock 100%, but set your expectations. This is an indie game from an indie team. It does a lot good, it has some flaws, but you're going to have a good time. But that's it from me. I love the ARPG genre. I love these style of games. So I'm always excited to play them and talk about them. And I hope more get made. It's a great time right now to enjoy these because we are just getting more and more great quality games just like this. So I'd love to hear what you think. Is this one you're going to try? Have you never heard of it? Have you tried it before? Let me know what you think. But thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.